Welcome to Leaving Nothing to Chance, your go-to podcast where we bring you insights from some of the most influential voices in small business and personal development. Each week, we dive deep into conversations with top thought leaders, authors, and business moguls from around the world, sharing their secrets to success and strategies for growth. Tune in for exclusive content that will inspire, motivate, and equip you to take your journey to the next level. This is Leaving Nothing to Chance.
Well, Dan, hard to believe we're at kind of our last recording session on awakening.
Last but not least, Sean, last but not least.
And of course, we will have on the Friday after you folks see this last session, we will have a live interview at 2 p.m. Central Time with Dan. I don't have that date in front of me, Dan, but I'm thinking it's around the first week of April or so. But
Okay.
they'll know when they watch this. And of course, we'll have a flyer up for the group. Remarkable. Here we are.
Yeah, it's been amazing because, I keep doing podcasts like you do. I keep thinking about it. I keep trying to peel away the onion, go a little deeper, be a little clearer. And it's just a blast to talk about affirmations to start with I am every day.
Well, Dan, let's talk about the 7 levels of affirmations. Let's dedicate this show to that because that is the fundamental underlying principle of what you've put together here, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that.
No, you're right. Yeah.
That's what I pick up. So let me be quiet and let you go.
Well, for the listeners, it's a really interesting thing as we all learn, right? Whether we learn something about our diet, our relationships, our business, our reading, our journaling, all of these things that we're learning. So here I am sitting in my office and I'm thinking that the book is done. And I had this gnawing feeling that there was something else. There was something I could add to this book, but I didn't know what it was. There's this incredible story at the end of the book about a man who's paralyzed and he used affirmations and they put a chip in the back of his brain, a chip in his back, and now he's walking with a walker. This is an unbelievable story. But there was something for me to go deeper with the reader on. And then it hit me one morning as I woke up and I went over to my desk right here and I just started writing. And the idea that there's levels of affirmations. Each individual can go as deep as they want, make it as personal as real, but there are components like you and I know that if we go on a diet, we know that we have macronutrients, carbohydrates, okay? We have fats and we have proteins. Well, in affirmations, Napoleon Hill would say, first think it. That's the auto-suggestion part. So when I'm teaching somebody to go deeper, I want them, when they first think a thought, the next thing is to say the thought, because we want to hear the vibration. We want to hear us say, I am strong. Okay, that's actually comes from the book of Joel. I am strong. I am powerful. I am humble. Whatever that is, we want to hear the vibrational energy of those words. So we want to think it, we want to say it, and then what we want to do is we want to write it. We want to get our journals out and just write the words, because now we're transferring it from the brain and the ears of the hearing and the vibration to slowing down and thinking through it. So I'm writing this one morning, and I'm just thinking, this is amazing. And I thought, well, if you can think it, and then you can say it, then you can write it, can you feel it? And so I'll never forget our friend Price Pritchett down there in your neck of the woods being interviewed by Bob Proctor. And Price Pritchett said in that great book, U Squared, he says, when you're writing your goals, I want you to feel it. Literally feel the people, the goals, the journey. Where are you going, so to speak? And so that's where I had the idea of the coin. Because as I go to my addiction recovery meetings on Wednesday nights, and I see other people that go through AA and the 12 steps, I don't have that chip. So I thought, why don't I make a chip for the aspiring entrepreneur, the person that needs to overcome, and let's make a chip that has the 7 affirmations. Let's make a coin that says, I am a magnet for miracles. And I want to feel that. Now, if you're listening right now, Neville Goddard said, the feeling is the secret. So now I want you to feel that. So Now we've thought it, we've said it, we've written it, we've felt it. Now watch where we go from here. The book of Psalms says, "Oh, taste." And I was interviewing people in my book that were what we call spotlight stories. And I said to my daughter, Crystal, I said, Crystal, when you're recovering from your Susac disease, could you taste healing? She said, what do you mean, Dad? And I'm like, well, you would make celery juice every morning. And she said, oh, yeah, I could taste healing. Right? And then I remember talking to another gal in the book. Now we get to the next one. And I said, Roz, when you were healing, could you smell healing? She says, what do you mean? And I said, well, could you smell? Was there something? Was there essential oils? Was there candles? And she interrupted me and she said, oh, yes, I craved fresh air. And she said, yeah, I could smell. And so now watch how this all comes together. And what's so fun is I am like you, and that is like when you go in that cold water every day, when I go to my affirmations and my video, we're building on the repetition being the mother of the skill. We're building line upon line, precept upon precept. And I think, okay, now I've thought it. So I'm stacking all the senses. I've said it. I got that vibrational energy of that positive affirmation. I've written it so I can see it and feel it and process it with the brain. I've felt it. I've tasted it. I've smelled it. But what's the seventh one? What is the seventh level of affirmations? If you were going to an AA meeting, you might say it was the 12th step, because at that 12th step, something significant happens. Stephen Covey had the same question given to him over and over again, and that is, what's after the 7 habits? And right over my shoulder here is all my Stephen Covey books. Right over my other shoulder is all my Og Mandino books. Covey probed and pondered for a long time. There's just 7. Then he wrote a book that answered the question, and it was called The 8th Habit. The 8th habit and the 12th step are essentially to share. When you find your voice, when you've processed the information, when you have metabolized it, you've lived it, it's now incumbent upon you in the AA program to perhaps be a sponsor to another. When you've lived it, as Stephen Covey says, it's incumbent upon you to not only find your voice, but share it with others. And so when you look at each level of the affirmations, what is the name of your podcast?
Leave nothing to chance.
You're leaving nothing to chance. But if you leave one of them out, you might be. If you're going to have carbohydrates, fats, and proteins, and you don't do one of them, you might be missing something nutritionally. So I say, let's stack, let's read, ponder, pray, study. Go through the whole process. Leave nothing to chance. Let's make sure that your life is ready to 10x. And if you do that, I promise you, it will be an incredible experience. It becomes what Covey called this. It really is difficult for an orchestra to play the entire tune in crescendo. You have to have the building process, the stacking to build towards the crescendo. That's what I am affirmations are. That's what personal development is. That's how you 10x your life. And then people say, well, you know, they say this all the time. I was speaking at a very high level retreat last weekend where people pay $30,000 a year for a friend of mine to be coached by. And as we went around and introduced ourselves, there was a gentleman there and he says, I don't know what I am anymore. I don't know if I'm retired or if I'm looking to just be tired. And And so the attitude that Covey would have is your next project is always your most important project. And that's why you can always 10x your life. That's why Dan Sullivan says with Dr. Benjamin Hardy in 10x is easier than 2x. Talks about when you go from 60 to 70, when you go from 70 to 80, when you go from 80, you can always crescendo. And so I just love this concept of how the book finishes. And you know what it's really for? It's really for someone that is serious. The casual reader will not go where we just went, because the casual reader buys a book, peruses the book and thinks, okay, I've seen that before. And then they're on to the next book. Mm-hmm. But the person like you that has been playing along with me and intentionally putting your name in the co-creation category, intentionally asking the questions and filling in the blanks at the end of the chapters where it's probing the mind. And so that's why I think, I'm going to make a bold statement here. I think awakening who I am, the 2 words that ignite transformation in your life, is the best book you'll ever read. And I'll say that because it's the simplest book with the greatest reward if you're willing to go down the path. It's just 2 words. And it's finding out how you ignite transformation in your life with those 2 words and with the 7 levels of affirmations. And life will 10x, and it will 10x quickly if you really dive in. If you really want to know and you put in the work, your life's going to change.
Dan, let me jump in here for a minute, because C.S. Lewis wrote many years ago, and I may get this quote off a little bit, folks. If I do, I apologize, but that pain is God's megaphone for raising a sleeping world.
Wow.
And when you get into this book, this is not, to your point, Dan, this is not, you're not reading, a novel, a made-up story. You're identifying some of your pain points.
Good point.
That's what I got out of this. Okay. Yeah. Is there's things, and look, I've got a pretty successful life, right? I got a huge business. I got a great wife. I got 3 kids that are doing well. I got, from to the casual observer, John's doing really great.
Yep.
And I am, and I'm blessed, and I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, there are still pain points in my life of things that I know I can do so much better. For example, and this isn't about me, but for example, you just said it about going from 60 to 70, 80 to 70 to 80, 80 to 90. I'm 2/3 of the way realistically through my life.
Yeah.
There's a lot more Christmases behind me than ahead of me. Okay?
Exactly.
But I said to somebody the other day, and I was somewhat inspired by this book, by the way, to do this. I notice a lot of my friends are quote unquote retiring. Like that gentleman you talked, I don't know if they're retired or tired, but probably both.
Yeah.
And I'm going, man, my list is getting longer. I mean, I look at it and I go, hey, I haven't done enough for mankind yet.
Yeah.
I haven't given back enough of what I've been given yet. I don't know if that day comes or when they're closing the lid on you or they're putting you in the fire, either way, right? You generally get out one way or the other. That I will have done enough. I don't know that I won't be that guy on the way to the cemetery with his cell phone going, one more call, I got but to that point, that's why a book like this has to put you into that place that may be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Stinking thinking, right? I mean, Bruce Lee said it well in chapter 1. Who better than Bruce Lee, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You tell your brain anything negative, your brain doesn't know you're kidding.
Yeah.
Get up tomorrow morning and you say, on this, on that, the other thing, your brain goes, yeah, that's right. So you're not expected to accomplish anything.
You know, you and I have a mutual friend. I just got to interrupt you because you just triggered a thought. So this friend reaches out and is finding himself an affluent individual, finding himself in this feeling of missing out on something new that is starting. And we were chatting about this, and I know how much this individual makes and how much this individual is worth. It's substantial sums of money. And this individual is really in this state of anxiety. And I said, how about if you do nothing more in the next hour than just be in a place of gratitude for all the abundance that's in your life, the health that you have, the family you have, the things that you have, the businesses you have, the relationships you have. Because right now, what I'm feeling for you is your arrow is pointing out at everybody else's shiny object instead of inside of all the incredible blessings you have. So why don't you say, I am grateful, and make a list. When I was speaking at this event, I was at a ranch, 28,000 acre ranch. And at 6:41 in the morning last weekend, we went out individually with our journals to write down 10 things we're grateful for. And at 7:01, the sun's coming over the mountain. And I just wonder how blessed all of us would be and how much reduction of ADD, anxiety, comparison, all of the things, if we could truly live in gratitude. It's a powerful exercise to take, and it's a beautiful thing because comparison will eat you up and spit you out.
There's always going to be somebody prettier, somebody richer, somebody
younger, faster, stronger. You bet.
Always. Yep. And I think that's something else that I got from using this book. Is I can look and say, maybe I joined the wrong company 28 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I gave up other opportunities along the way to stay at a company that sometimes, frankly, I don't feel all that appreciated in.
Yeah, same.
Okay? But at the same time, I go, well, wait a minute. Did I start my business for the people who owned it? Or did I start it for John and Jose and my 3 kids to give them the things that they needed in terms of their education, their athletic careers, their development, right? When my daughter got sick, the finances to get her well, et cetera, et cetera. So my business has been really, really successful if I look at it from that standpoint. Now, what if, right, Robert Frost, two roads diverge in the woods, I can only take one. What if I had gone there? What if, as I've retold my story of getting in network marketing on all these podcasts I've been invited to, the same week I got introduced to network marketing, I had the papers on my desk to sign up to go into the United States Marine Corps.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I never told you that story. But, what if I had gone there? Would I have been an officer? Would I have maybe gone somewhere and unfortunately not come back? I don't know. Right. Take that path, right? And that's what really, when you drill down, this is why this book, I don't even know if you quite get the significance. This is going to become the self-development book, not only in the network marketing space, but for people in all sorts of not only careers, but in their life, because it's hitting those basic core anthropological things that we're all made of to say, I am with God. That's the most important thing. But after that, a lot of it's up to us.
Yeah. It's just like the journey of self-help and personal development is so cool. And what you just said about who you are and how those 2 roads and those forks in the roads. Look, I was a lost, troubled kid. I didn't know if I was going to work in the shipyards and be like my dad. And I know that everyone has a lot in life. And your lot is to figure out what your unique ability is and become the light to the world. You've written several books. I wrote this book because I was hopeful that we could spread more light to the world. And it just warms me to know that a super achiever last week, out of nowhere, who I had sent the book to, who's a super achiever, a humongous influencer, earns substantial sums of money, and this person for 2 months didn't respond. I sent this person the letter, signed the book, just like I did to you. I had no response, and I just have to sit there and think, that's just where some people are in life. And out of the blue, this person, oh my gosh, Dan McCormick, I just finished your book. I'm on podcasts, I'm on shows, I'm on Zooms, I'm on Facebook Live, telling everybody they got to buy this book because it was unbelievable. And the next thing you know, I got threads going here and there and everywhere from this incredible influencer. And you just never know. There's a fun story about Hal Elrod. And when Hal, and I know because you know how many thousands of books you've sold, Hal's goal his first year was to sell 1 million books. He sold 8,000. So he's not good at math, he says from stage, but he tried to calculate how far did he fall short. He couldn't even figure out the number. I got 8,000 sold. My goal was 1 million. But what's so fascinating is he's got this attitude that now that he's sold 3 or 4 million books, and a lot of times authors like to write book after book after book after book, and he's like, there's 8 billion people on the planet. I've only sold 3, 4, 5 million. I got a lot of runway to go, right? So I'm just grateful that you've really found the book to be, easy reading, but heavy on the pondering, looking inside and saying, can I filter for higher quality? Can I take my I am affirmations and go higher places? And, there's a great saying, I believe the man's name is Goa, that when life gets blurry, search for higher ground. Well, the reality is that I am affirmations are higher ground. If life is blurry for somebody watching this, look for higher ground, filter for higher quality words, and your life will get better rapidly.
Wow. Great. So Dan, what's going to be next? I think you're already working on another project, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we're working on the next book for sure. And it'll be centered around gratitude, frequency, energy, vibration. I'm also going to be starting a newsletter. My newsletter will be a physical newsletter that'll be mailed out. The newsletter will be around topics that I am passionate about with energy, vibration, affirmation, words, gratitude, all this kind of stuff. But there'll also be a corner in the newsletter every month that is about, you and I talk about this stuff a lot, and that is money's important to people. And how does money work for you? What are some things you can do to make money work for you? How do you build wealth? Even, this day and age is the best day and age ever to have small sums of money that you can grow to large sums of money. And what I'm excited about is that newsletter, giving people that information, having some of my frequency audios that I work with, having frequency doctors coming on my show, being guests in my newsletter, all this kind of stuff that will be a physical newsletter. They can go to affirmiam.com and learn about it. And we'll have those out hopefully in the middle of 2025.
Great. So if you had to pick one affirmation, I think I know what you're going to say because I know you so well after all these years, but our audience doesn't. What would you say was that affirmation that took basically a poor kid raised in humble circumstances, single mom, correct?
Yep.
Right? Growing up, not having a whole lot of options, maybe, but as the world would see it. What was that affirmation where young Dan McCormick said, I'm not going to settle for what the world gives me. I'm going to make a difference in my life and other people's lives. And you've done that. You've raised a great family. You got a huge family, tons of grandkids now. But what do you think that one affirmation that you really accepted in your life that you said, hey, this is it? What would you say it is?
So I would say that in life, a lot of times, we'll have different favorite foods, we'll have different favorite exercises, we'll have different favorite books, different favorite people, maybe. Obviously, I'm stuck with an incredible wife. I didn't mean to say stuck like being stuck, but like that's where the glue is for me and my wife. My wife, I owe so much to, And I owe so much to her father, being a businessman and a book collector and a book reader. But for me, it changed because when I read Og Mandino's Greatest Salesman in the World and I see that first scroll, well, I didn't know he was an alcoholic, so I didn't understand today I begin a new life. And then when he got to scroll number 2, and that is, I will greet this day with love in my heart, that was my mantra. I said that from stages for years. I will greet this day with love in my heart. Muscle can split a shield and even destroy life, but only the unseen power of love can open the hearts of men and women. Until I master this art, I will remain no more than a peddler in the marketplace. I've said that on stages around the world. Then you get to scroll number 3, I will persist until I succeed. So I have an appreciation for that. But I would have to say that on the back of my coin is I am a magnet for miracles. Well, Og says it a little differently. And he says in scroll number 4, I am nature's greatest miracle. And so I would say right now, those are the words that I wake up to every day. I know that miracles are real in my life and God puts amazing people in my life. And so that's not to say that I couldn't choose any one of the 7 on the other side of the coin, because if somebody is lacking in self-worth, I am worthy probably should be the most important one, right? Or if somebody is not good at finishing projects, maybe I am a finisher should be the one, right? If you're constantly comparing your past, maybe it's I am present, because you make your future bigger, your present changes. So I would say that there's an appreciation for all of them, but I am nature's greatest miracle stands out to me. First thoughts in the morning, first light, first thoughts, first things I say, and first things I feel.
Great, great. So Dan, just in wrapping up, we know what you're doing in the future. I just really want to thank you for spending this time together. And I want to thank you for this book. And folks, believe me, Dan McCormick doesn't need the $2 royalty or whatever he gets from selling this book. Dan does very, very well. But Dan didn't spend countless hours, sleepless nights, okay? Weekends when he could have been doing stuff with his kids, his wife, is what are we up to now? 14 grandkids?
15 grandkids, yeah.
15 grandkids. And Dan's got great relationships with all. Dan's got great relationships with everybody, but his family comes first, obviously. And so this was a labor of love. This was him saying, hey, I've been given much. The Old Testament has a great statement, right? King Solomon said, well, much is given, much is expected.
Yeah.
Well, this is Dan's contribution, along with Ken Shelton, by the way. I haven't met Ken yet.
Huge, yeah.
But, these guys invested in us. They invested to give something back, like Og did, like Jim Rohn did, like Zig
Ziglar,
like Tony Robbins, like all these great, Earl Nightingale. I can go down a list. Charlie Tremendous Jones, all these great people.
Yeah.
Said, hey, I've been given much. Let me give some back.
Love it.
I'm not here anymore. You know what I stood for. You know what I was about. And Dan, that's what you've done here, my friend. So I want to thank you. This book is one that I have shared with a lot of people and will continue to. I think it's a game changer. And, maybe in your life, you're not in the right place right now. Okay. I know I did podcasts. I've shared this with Dan. And matter of fact, Dan, one of the 2 people you introduced me to, I had 2 people on my podcast in the past year, so we're about to commit suicide at one point in their lives. Wow. And they shared that with our audience, and it was compelling. And they're both very successful people, by the way, but both were in different circumstances, right? And I hope, and I know Dan does too, and we hope and we pray you're not in any kind of situation like that, but maybe you are. Or maybe you're desperate financially, or maybe you're in a terrible relationship and you don't know what the outcome's going to be. This book can help you to see the forest through the proverbial trees. So Dan, I want to thank you again, and I'll give you the last word, my friend.
Thank you. And God bless everybody that listens to this. And I hope they'll stay connected to me. You can go to affirmim.com. And we love your comments, your feedback, certainly your review on Amazon means a lot to the algorithm there. And I just hope and pray that we can sometimes meet on the journey and share each other's good fortune and all the great collaborative work we do together as a co-creator. As I ask you to, co-sign the book with me and press forward as a partner in the journey and make life beautiful for more people. So thank you, John. It's been a great journey to be with you.
Been my privilege. I've learned a lot, and I hope everybody else has.
God bless. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to check back weekly for more exciting episodes. And don't miss Ink and Insight every Wednesday, where we celebrate iconic authors and dive into their impactful works.